What really obvious thing have you only just realized? That when I was a kid and my dad would take me to the video store on Friday nights and he would go into the back room where only adults were allowed. That he was looking at porn. That the phrase mint condition means like new because it's the condition coins leave the mint in. Wow, I always thought it meant mint condition because mint makes you feel fresh. I must have been around 11 to 12 years old when I realized that, in order of appearance during the end credits of a movie doesn't list the actors, actresses by who is the most good-looking. I learned a couple years ago that it's not the mayor of bad news, it's actually the bearer of bad news. I'm 25. Cilantro and coriander are the same plant. One time I was at a restaurant with a friend, sharing salsa and chips. I commented that the salsa had a very strong cilantro flavor. And she commented she couldn't taste anything other than coriander. We debated the issue for a few minutes. In disbelief that the other person was tasting something completely different and couldn't pick up on the taste the other thought was prominent. When I saw coriander seeds at the store a few weeks later, I bought them to see what taste she had been talking about. And then the truth clicked. I only just today realized that the walk the plank on a boat is not a special edition pirates added to their ships as a means of public execution that looked like a little wooden diving board. It is, in fact, the very same plank as the gangplank you'd normally use to get on and off of the ship. It is not the presence of the plank that is threatening, but the absence of dock. That you have to add a can of water to Campbell's soup. Apparently I've been drinking straight condensed soup. Don't let people lie to you. Eat it straight from the can. The first time I visited the USA I was on my own and in NY and going to all the museums. I kept seeing signs that said, no strollers, and thought. Because we call strollers prams in the UK. That you guys are super strict about the proper amount of attention required to visit a museum. I actually pretended to show more interest than I had in order not to be thought of as some deadbeat out for a casual stroll. It wasn't until about day 3 that I saw a "No Strollers" sign that included a graphic for idiots. Oh, my first visit to the States, I went to a supermarket on my own and at the checkout the lady asked me, paper or plastic, and I didn't know what she meant, so I said, I have cash, and she very politely didn't tell me I was an idiot. She was in fact asking what type of carrier bags I wanted my shopping putting in, instead of how I was going to pay. That calling someone simple is just a nice way of calling someone stupid. Wife informed me of this after 28 years of my grandma calling me simple. I realized at the age of 26 that narwhals are real because they were on an Octonauts episode. I walked into the room and was like, I thought they only do real animals on this show. Then the kid's dad said, you're joking, right? I kept seeing the same Chinese characters on restaurants' signs and I always wanted to know what it meant. A week ago I found out they mean restaurant. A friend in college went to Hawaii and thought mahalo meant pitch in because it was printed on all the public trash cans. I used to always pour water into our coffee maker 1 glass at a time. It was such a pain in the ass, especially to fill the reservoir to the number of cups I wanted. Until I realized I could just fill the carafe with water, which has the exact same measurements, and pour the water in that way. Oh, I'll one-up you on that one. My coworker, in the first week of work, picked up the whole damn coffee maker and brought it over to the water cooler to fill it up. The whole coffee maker. He unplugged it and carried it across the office. Outstanding. I recently realized I was allergic to carrots. I just thought they made everyone's mouth numb. You know, just like almonds. I also learned recently that I have an almond allergy. I always thought you can't have your cake and eat it. 2 was a weird saying because why wouldn't I be able to eat my freaking slice of cake? It's my cake. Nobody was telling me that I can't have my cake. Turns out they mean you can't eat the cake while also still retaining it. Once it is eaten, it is gone. An idiom I did not understand until this year. I am 27. The Italian version of this is you can't have a full bottle and a drunk wife or something along those lines. This is better. This sounds ridiculous. But I recently found out about the term knee-jerk reaction. My whole life I had been saying it how I heard it. And just figured it was spelled something like knee-jerk reaction, like it was some psychology term. English is not my first language. So I was mind blown when I realized how keys, kiss, he's, his, this, these, etc. differed in sound pronunciation. I first noticed this when I told my boyfriend I wanted a keys and he looked very confused lol. Now I try my best to pronounce them properly. Imagine if you'd made that mistake when ordering peas. Babe, BRB going to get some peas real quick. My whole life I thought pay-per-view was actually pay-per-view because I had only ever heard people say it. And only recently saw it written out. My boyfriend did not know that his electric toothbrush has a timer on it that goes off at 1 minute and 2 minutes. He actually returned it and got a new one thinking it was broken. Since the timer is just a brief sort of pause, reduction in the vibration. He would be like, WTF, I literally just charged this F-king thing, thinking that the battery was already dying. One day, and I can't remember exactly what the conversation was. I brought up how I liked that my toothbrush let me know when I had brushed long enough. And it was like a light bulb went off in his head and suddenly he put it together that that was what his toothbrush was doing all along. I realized that to be in one's birthday suit it means to be without clothes. I thought for the longest time it was a specific set of clothes you would wear on your birthday each year. I found out when I asked, what happens when you don't fit in your birthday suit anymore? Lol. I was 28 before I realized the meaning to the why is 6 afraid of 7 joke. I always just thought it was dumb. 7, 8, 9, like you're just counting. The electric bill wasn't paid until later in my life. For the longest time, I always thought prima donna was prima donna. Me, too. My mother would call me that and I thought she meant I was going to be a WHRE. The reason the cord hook on the vacuum spins is so you can take the whole cord off at once instead of unraveling it one loop at a time. Like I have been my whole life. And if you wind it up as a figure 8 between the two hooks. When you turn the hook down and take off the whole cord, it won't get tangled up as you vacuum. That parents have children write letters to Santa so they can figure out what to buy them for Christmas. I can't believe how I never put that together after 32 years on this earth. I just thought it was fun little tradition. In Sweden we put those letters in the postbox with mail headed to the North Pole. My bedroom door was broke and I finally got around to fixing it. Thought the knob was broke cause it was pushed in towards the door, so I pulled it out and realized that was how you locked the door. It called Men's Warehouse and not Men's Warehouse. It's been a couple years since I realized this and I just think that's a clever name. What the F, I just looked it up and I still don't believe you. Men's Warehouse. This little piggy didn't go to the market to do any shopping. For a long time I thought to bust a nut meant that you were going to kick a guy in the BLLS or beat him up. So anytime I was getting worked up or angry talking about some guy, the first would say, I'm going to bust his F-king nut, not knowing the real meaning. Nobody ever said anything, but it was always followed by my friends laughing, so I assumed it was because I was being dramatic. Years go by and my coworker is telling me about some rude person he met and I said, you should definitely bust that guy's nut. To which he paused and said, do you even know what that means? Suffice it to say I was extremely embarrassed and horrified when he explained it to me. Similarly, I have a friend who didn't know what friends with benefits meant. She thought it meant like a friend from work who is literally beneficial to your work. This is my friend with benefits. Brad. He has health insurance and a pension fund. Single quote. Super embarrassing, but in college I would order rum and cokes because I heard everyone else ordering the same. Turns out I misheard everyone and found out it was just rum and coke. A rum and coke does sound like a great drink though. When teenagers said, we're going to TP a house, I always thought it was TP and it never made sense to me since they just covered a house with toilet paper. I recently realized that TP was the initials for toilet paper. I'm 27. This girl I know has a dog named Dog. 2 years into knowing her and being around Dog, I was having a conversation with her sister-in-law and I said, I love the name Dog. How did she come up with that? Her sister-in-law responds, Dog, and I said, yay. It's a neat name. She started laughing and said, no. D-O-G. The way you spell dog. We got a chocolate Labrador quite a few years ago. My dad has been known to name animals after what species they are. This time around, my mom wouldn't let him name the dog, so he named her Kitty. He also named his horse, No Name. This is why we don't let him name animals anymore. That they put measurement stickers next to gas station doors so if a robber is running out of the store you can get a better estimate of their height. I always thought they were just there for something fun to do on road trip stops. Pufferfish suck in water, not air. Not just now. But I think it applies. I'm currently in my mid-30s. I didn't realize until I was about 28 years old that my mom's name was Betty and her sister's name was Wilma. Betty and Wilma. From the Flintstones. And yes, they were definitely named after the cartoon. I asked. Flash forward 2 years later. My Aunt Wilma informed me that they were fraternal twins. Again, another thing for 30 years I had not known. Edit, a few folks have asked for a bit of context on the twin thing. My mom died when I was fairly going, so I never had her birthday as a thing. I wasn't super close to Wilma, so I wasn't really celebrating hers either. I guess it was just known in my family, so nobody ever mentioned it until totally randomly she said something about it. On the name thing, they actually both went by nicknames their whole lives, so I never even thought of them as Betty and Wilma. But just Mom and Aunt Cookie, she likes to bake. Saw a place labeled as public house when I moved nearby recently. It was at that moment I realized, oh, that's why they call them pubs. It's short for public house. In Russian phrase, public house means a hui house, not a pub. I wonder. Up until last year I thought Nat Geo was a person. I then realized it was short for National Geographic. Nathaniel Geotopoulos actually was a founder of the channel, but it's only a coincidence. Not me, but my sister asked me about 2.5 months ago when we were watching John Wick 3 during the desert scene. She asked me if they were real and I asked if what were real and she said, sand lands, and I busted out laughing so goddamn hard and said, you mean deserts? Yes, they're real. Thinking about it right now got me laughing. I think we should start a petition to change the word to sandlands though. It's pretty good. By tornadoes sound like trains, they don't mean tornadoes whistle a choo-choo sound. That people who always seem to know what direction it is, north, south, east, west, aren't somehow magical magnets but are rather just noticing where the goddamn sun is in the sky. Why did no one tell me? I regret to inform you all that it just occurred to me the other day that the game is called Sims because they're in a simulation. I'm 26.